Hello, my name is Daria Tikamerova and I'm a student at University of Applied Sciences and Business Administration faculty. And today I'm going to tell you some of my thoughts on topic why there are rich and poor countries in our world. There are 196 countries in the world. 25 of them are very rich and defined as having an average wealth per person of over $100,000 a year. But far more countries are quite poor, and some which I'm considering in this video are very poor. These are the 20 poorest countries in the world, where the per capita wealth is under $1,000 a year, or under $3 a day. Every country is more or less on a path to growth, but the poor ones are growing very slowly. If, for example, Zimbabwe continues its current growth rate, it will qualify as a rich country in 2,722 years. What I want to know in this video is why some countries prosper and others stagnate, so we can understand that rich countries are doing great and get a better grip on challenges and hurdles facing poor countries. There are basically three factors that determines whenever a country will be rich or poor. The first factor is institutions. Institutions are beyond important. So broadly speaking, rich countries have good institutions and poor ones have very bad. The correlation between poverty and corruption is quite direct. And the richest country in the world are quite simply invariable, also the less corrupt ones. And the most corrupt countries are the poorest. When countries corrupt, they can't collect enough taxes to get a good institutions. They will need to escape the poverty trap. Half of the wealth of the world's poorest 20 countries, those into offshore accounts, lost revenues in these countries totals between 10 and $20 billion a year. Meanwhile, without a sufficient tax base, poor countries can't invest in police, education, health and transport. Now, a more genius way to look at the corruption is that it's a really case of clan-based thinking. Let's say you're hiring someone, and in a rich country you're meant to do so simply on interviewing lots of candidates, then picking the best one irrespective of any personal connections. But in a poor countries under this way of clan-based thinking, that approach wouldn't be so current. It's the duty to disregard so best candidate from enormous branch in order to pick someone from your own team. Your uncle, your brother, your second cousin, the guy from the same tribe. As a result, poor countries don't allow themselves to access the intelligence of talent and of the whole population. There is a second thing that keeps countries poor: culture. What goes on people's mind, their outlooks and beliefs. As tricky statistics pop up here in relation to religion. If there is one generalization we can make about religion and wealth, it is that the less people believe, the richer they will stand the chance of being. 19 of the richest country in the world has 70% or more of the population saying that religion is not at all important to them. The exception here is unsurprisingly the United States, which managed to combine great religiosity with huge wealth. But more on that in a second. And conversely, the poorest nation in the world are also extremely bilingual ones. Here is how many people think. Religion in a supranational is the most important of fallen countries. In the world's poorest countries, simply everyone is believer. So why is belief quite so bad for wealth creation? Because in general, religiosity is connected up with the idea that here and now can't be improved. So you should focus on the spiritual and look forward to the next world instead. It makes quite a bit of sense when you live here. In the rich world, on the other hand, people are generally great believers in their capacity to alert the decency through effort and talent. Essentially, to explain the anomaly of the United States religion seems not so slow down the economic growth here because it is a particular soft religion and overwhelmingly Protestant and exceptionally materialistic kind. The American God doesn't want you to build a new Jerusalem in the next world. He wants it here and now in Kansas of Houston. There is another big factor that determines the wealth and poverty of nations: geography. Poor countries are overwhelmingly located in the tropical regions. This isn't a considerance. Life is in many ways simply far tougher there. The problems begin with agriculture. Tropical plants are generally a lot less packed with carbohydrates. Poor countries have worse soil too. Also, and perhaps surprisingly, the tropical climate can be disadvantageous to photosynthesis. Historically, a key determinant in the likelihood of society growing rich was the possession of large domestic animals such as horses and oxen, which liberated a huge part of the workforce from having a plow by hand. But in tropical Africa, domesticated animals have throughout time been devastated by a further appalling scourge, the tsetse fly. This small fly exclusively present in Africa. Because of its heat and humidity knocks out animals on a normal scale, making them sleepy or inactive, and has had a profound effect of the ability of the Africans to develop technology and increasing agriculture productivity and a mass health. It isn't just the plant and animals that suffer in the tropics. In the middle latitudes, humans are open to terrifying array of diseases, including 100% of low-income countries are affected by at least 5 tropical diseases at the same time. The magical temperature which has helped to make rich countries rich is 16 degrees centigrade. However, superficially unpleasant that drops below 16 degrees as autumn starts to bite. It's quite literally a foundation stone of civilization. Geography also encompassing transport and poorer countries are on the whole very badly connected. Landlocked Bolivia and semi-locked Paraguay are the poorest nation in South America. Africa has only one major navigable river, the Nile, and the host 15 landlocked nations, 11 of which have average income of $600 a year or less. Not coincidentally, the poorest country in Asia, Afghanistan, is also landlocked. Then there is a matter of national resources. National resources like oil or precious metal can be real trouble, and paradoxically poor countries tend to have them in spades. These national resources are economists call intensifiers. They will help to make country with a good institution richer, but when once with a bad institution get even poorer. Precipitating was called the resources trap. So, the Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the world's most mineral-rich countries, holding most of the world's coltan, which every mobile phone has bit of a saying. But national resources can help grab money without requiring the cooperation of the whole society.
So, how should one weigh out the relative importance of all these different factors? Institutional, cultural, and geographic as determine the wealth of nations. There is no hard and fast rule, but as a guide, one can suggest that 50% of the nation's wealth comes down to the state of its institutions. 20% is due to its culture, and 10% each can be allocated to latitude, connectivity with the rest of the world, and geographical disclosure. If you are a policymaker, this discussion has wide particular implications, but at the more personal level, one might take away 2 things from it. Firstly, modesty. You should have a better idea of what you are or your individual success do, which is not so much your own hard work for fine mind as a broader society you live in, which has produced more centuries in which you naturally benefit from unknowingly. At the same time, symphony, an ability not to see failing societies such as basket case, but rather as countries facing comprehensible and hugely difficult problems. Our symphony can be enhanced by reflecting that the troubles of disparate lands are to a considerable extent to do with malaria, a lack of navigable river, and horrific buzzing and dead seed fly, rather than always some more intimated human failing which we should ourselves never manifest. Thank you and have a good day.